Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. Here's the big picture, really big picture, period. The world today is in a battle between the forces of Catholicism versus communism, which is to say, Catholicism versus atheism. Communism, for all its evil and terror, is at the end of the day nothing more than a political system to end belief in God. Every other belief system on earth, every ideological view is moving toward either one of those two poles. Catholicism is of God, atheism is of Satan. Everything else are just battles and wars and skirmishes in that great conflict, which is not to say they are unimportant, quite the opposite. Wars are finally won by winning enough battles and seizing enough territory to plant your flag firmly atop the enemy's capital. But while the battles, some larger, some smaller, are being fought, you can never lose sight of the overriding war. That's what it's ultimately all about. Which side gets to plant its flag? War is exhausting. Battles wear you out, and that's true of both sides. But the commies face far less opposition than the Catholic side does, because Catholics and others of goodwill have simply been naive in their assessment of reality. Catholics historically just don't want to get involved, with the exception of the pro-life cause. And even there, it's not like enormous percentages of Catholics were involved. And when it comes to voting, gigantic numbers of Catholics still cast their votes for the child-killing communists. Likewise, when it comes to charitable giving, Catholics are generally bringing up the rear compared to Protestants. Like Bishop Seen said, Catholics have all truth and no zeal. Why that is needs to be explored. But for the moment, let's just leave it for where it is in this vortex, and that is communism has made such rapid and overpowering gains because most Catholics just don't care or care enough. The commies march on with only an occasional setback, and when they do suffer that, they come back 100 times more energized. Think what they did to Trump for 4 years. Yes, they got cocky and thought Hillary was the one, and when those final returns from Pennsylvania came in very late that election night in 2016 and Trump won, they were stunned. For the record, Church Militant, live on the air, remember that scene, was the very first media outlet to call Trump the winner. Our Lady of Victory.
Pray for us.
Our Lady of America. Spiritually Sancto.
Okay, so when are you going to dance?
We're going to let Trump speak first. I'm going to get my dance cut off. If you stand around, they've all called it. Clinton has been defeated. And the time that came across was 2:39 a.m.
Look at the graphic we have.
Defeated. What halcyon days those were. What no one really knew then is that the weaponization of the nation's intelligence apparatus had already been installed by Obama. Quietly, he had replaced the heads of each department with his own Marxist types. So instead of handing it over to Hillary to use against citizens, they had to backtrack and use it against a sitting president, making up total BS stories replayed by their Marxist media allies about collusion with Russia, leading to impeachment. Yes, they had underestimated, but they made sure it would not happen again. So they dogged his presidency at every turn for 4 years and then installed their own 4 years later. Meanwhile, the hapless Catholic side did next to nothing. Even to this day, our natural allies still don't seem to get it, at least sufficiently. It isn't a war over politics. That's a battle. It isn't a war over abortion. That's a battle. It isn't a war over sexual morality and drag shows and books in school libraries. Those are battles. The war is spiritual. It's ideologically driven. Those who accept God and authentic worship and religion versus those who do not. The odds have never been stacked in favor of the God side, ever. Never in human history. That's what happens when you begin with a fallen world as your starting point. From a strictly human standpoint, meaning just the natural level, the war is lost before it even begins. They, meaning the satanic side, they have all the cards. But we have truth, and the human mind is hardwired for truth. Some may in fact reject it, but some will accept it and come to embrace it. Just as most did not get on Noah's Ark, some did. Ultimately, that's what Catholicism is, Noah's Ark, or to update it, Peter's Ark, or Peter's bark. Most will perish in the floods, no doubt. That's why the ludicrous theological propaganda that we have a reasonable hope all men are saved is flat out stupid. Nowhere in human history has that ever been the case. And every church father agreed. Only heretics push that idiocy. See Protestant theologian Karl Barth, who stole it from the most condemned heretic in the history of Christianity, the 4th century Origen. But while God brought it all to an end, as he will do again, he didn't tell Noah to do nothing, sit back, don't warn people, don't go find a hammer, some nails and wood, let the innocent animals drown. It's completely clear from the actions of the Almighty, from Noah to instructing the wine stewards in Cana, that he wants man actively involved in the work of salvation. Build the ark, fill the jars with water, go out and baptize all nations, and on and on and on. He doesn't need man to do that. He wants man to do that. It's always been the same war, even if the circumstances and particulars vary from age to age. Human nature, fallen as it is trapped between the higher calling and the struggle of God and the attraction to hedonism at the bottom. The more things change, as they say. But there's a new wrinkle these days, communism, disguised as it is as globalism, socialism, the new gospel, love, freedom, all giving rise to an almost Christian complexion of care for the poor, the environment, the downtrodden. Communism presents itself as the answer to being a victim, and there's certainly no shortage of victims these days. And as all that is going on, Catholicism is painted as the enemy of the victim, the poor, the marginalized, the downtrodden. James Martin makes a living off doing that. Liberation theology bases its entire existence on that. The entire social justice apparatus of the USCCB, the United States Conference of Communist Bishops, grabbing billions in government money in the process, is based on all that. The approach of Nazi chief propagandist Joseph Goebbels is becoming a reality. They tell a really big lie, so outrageous that no one would suspect it to be a lie, because, the thinking goes, no one in the general public would ever think someone could tell a lie that big. That lie is communism, which guides the hand of globalism and corporate liberalism. That lie is that it is your Savior. Brother, that couldn't be further from the truth. Jesus Christ is the Savior of the world. Communism and all that goes with it is the true oppressor. It is satanic at its core. And it is the big picture, for them, the big lie, that the commies never fail to advance. It's their lifeblood, the propaganda. They are the saviors of the little man. We here at Church Militant fight like the Dickens to expose that lie. That's why we're asking you to help us by signing up for our $1 a day campaign. It's just $30 a month to keep this invaluable work going. Almost no one is doing this or saying any of this. We choose to be in the electronic media, the visual media, because we know that it is the single most important driver in the culture, just as the commies know it. So please commit to just $1 a day to help us keep informing as many people as possible and arming you with information so you can go inform people also. If you want an example of how you're helping us makes a difference, look no further than last month's press conference in D.C., where we and our coalition partners shined a much-needed spotlight on the bishops, aiding and abetting the collapse of America by getting billions in funding to undermine border security. A month later, those efforts have produced more than 25 million impressions in social media through the reporting of political conservative outlets. 25 million impressions that would not have been there except for our labors, those labors that you help support. So please today help us inform the public by donating just $1 a day, which you can do by clicking on the provided link. And for that, thank you in advance for keeping Church Militant the tip of the spear in fighting communism in and out of the church. God love you. I'm Michael Voris.